But as it is written, eye hath not seen, nor ear heard, neither hath entered into the heart of man the things which God hath prepared for them that love him. But God hath revealed them unto us by his Spirit.
Psalms chapter 17, verse 15. As for me, I will behold thy face in righteousness. I shall be satisfied when I awake with thy likeness. Shalom Yasharala, peace Israel. Call Halayim La, Alahayanawa, Abanawa, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham Rakhat Wadash. All praise to our power, our Father, Yahweh, in the name Yahushai, in the name Holy Spirit. Double honor to our elder apostles and elder bishops, great millstone. Peace and blessing to you hopeful elect out there. You brothers teaching his word in truth and in sincerity, okay? Yahweh Shai will make you elect like him. Yahweh Shai will make you hopeful elect out there just like him. He's gonna make you just like him, and he's gonna give you everything in due season, okay? I'm gonna read the scripture again, and then I'll get another. Just gonna read two scriptures in the Psalms. Psalms chapter 17 and verse 15 again. As for me, and this is Psalm of David, and we know King David was an Israelite. Or should I say he is an Israelite, okay? So this verse right here is only for the Israelites, beginning with the elect. Those are part of the house of David. Because King David himself, he wrote this. Psalm 17 and 15. As for me, I will behold thy face in righteousness, meaning you will behold this truth, okay? This truth is the Lord's face. His image. You're looking at his face in righteousness by you understanding this truth. Okay? He opened up your mind to receive this word. You understand and believe in the true proper name of the Heavenly Father, Yahweh. You understand and believe in the true proper name of his beloved Son, Yahushai. You know that we're the Israelites, so-called blacks, Latinos, Hispanics, and Native Americans. You understand this truth. So you're beholding his face in righteousness, meaning you're understanding these scriptures. I shall be satisfied when I awake with thy likeness, meaning when you're changed. When Yahweh Shai returns to this earth, he's gonna quicken you. He's gonna, when you receive that new body, it's like you're waking up for the first time. Totally refreshed, totally renewed, totally rejuvenated. A whole new world, a whole new life. That's how it's going to be when you receive that immortal body. You will be satisfied when you awake with his likeness, meaning you're going to be changed and you're going to be just like him. Because he is the perfect model. He is the archetype. So for you hopeful elect out there, you're being made into different versions of Yahweh Shai. When he returns to this planet Earth, he's going to make you just like him. First, he gave you this truth. You have his truth by way of his death and resurrection, because Yahweh Shai had to die for us to receive this truth, this word. So you're beholding his face by you looking at this word. So you see Yahweh Shai all the time. You see Yahweh Shai by way of this word, because he is the word. He comes in the volume of the book. And the more you get into this book, the more you're becoming like his image spiritually. And when he returns to this earth, physically, you're going to be like him. Physically, you're going to be changed. And you're going to receive that new covenant. The laws, statutes, and commandments will be in your mind. You're going to be programmed to do righteousness. Okay? You will have the laws, statutes, and commandments downloaded within your brain. You're going to be satisfied when you awake with his likeness, meaning when he returns, he's going to beam you up, deliver you, and you're going to be just like him. And he's going to give you everything. He will give you everything, man, because he himself received everything. Now, this is Psalms chapter 16, beginning at verse 9. Therefore, my heart is glad. Now, this is Yahweh Shai speaking in the spirit.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Makakodash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers, and peace and blessings and salutation to the hopeful lake out there pushing his word and truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Makakodash. Pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful like the believers and listeners who may have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashim Al-Shai. All right. And what I want to get into this morning, news and prophecy, America, all right, and Esau, okay, which we know, America has been, as the scriptures say, the excellency of the Chaldeans, because through this American system, all right, this American economic system, through the American dollar, all right, the petrodollar system, okay, and the American military, which has been a powerhouse, all right, for decades, all right. These elites, have gained global control, because through putting these nations in debt, okay, all right, and then being able to enforce, okay, policy, their economic policy with the military, okay, the elites have been able to use America, all right, to weaken the nations, okay, and to gain dominance, okay, over the world. Now we know, all right, when we go into the concept, of what, people, when they think of America, they think of the people, they think of democracy and this and that. Well, the elites, okay, they don't look at America in that regard. They look at the system that they established in America, okay, that has given them, global power. Okay, when you go into, these certain banking families, man. Okay. And what we're seeing, as the elites are attempting, to establish, a new world order, by, a global reset, which their narrative now, all right, to create, scarcity, all right, is a, energy crisis lockdown, that's been, the talks, okay, of what's going to happen due to, what we see going on with this war, and we're going to deal with it, from multiple aspects, like I say, we always, go into the boots on the ground aspect, and then we go into the political aspect, and then the authority of the matter is the prophecies, because as we go into, all the different information, well, what's the authority over all this information is prophecies, man. Okay, the prophecies establish, okay, the truth of the matter, the prophecies, okay, govern, all this information, that's coming out about this and about that. Well, through prophecy, we know what to throw out, okay, and we know what to expound on, okay. So we're going to go through a few things. I want to get some precepts first because, well, we have to understand the Lord, is turning this nigga Esau into a caveman right before us, man. As he's getting closer and closer to attempting to pull off his new world order, the Most High, has this man, all right, turning back into a caveman, basic as hell. Okay. Now, when you go into the scriptures, let's go here to the book of Psalms, chapter 37, and verse 35. All right, this Psalms 37. Okay, and 35. All right, it says, I have seen the wicked, and great power, and what we witnessed, all right, from these last few centuries, okay, is these devils, they came back into power during the Renaissance period, and amongst these devils, you have Amalek, all right, these bankers, you see, and these other elite families, all right, of these Edomites, we're beginning with the bankers, they've come into great power. We've seen particular, Edomite governments, the Spanish, the French, the British, all right, and the last and the most powerful, that little horn, which is America. Okay, so we've seen this man, come back, all right, into having great power. Okay, and it shows you the power of the Lord because Esau, he was as the scriptures say, he was sealed off, for 1,000 years. Okay, and the Lord allowed this man to emerge on the scene and gain power, and he has flourished into great power. Okay, so when you read this, I have seen the wicked in great power and spreading himself like a green bay tree, man. And these devils, they have infiltrated, the governments of the world, okay, the school curriculums, the religions, okay, agriculture, anything that you can think of, okay, that deals with, the functions of society. These devils have been able to infiltrate, man, okay, and have a foothold, you see. And the pandemic showed, their reach, all right, when you had, a coordinated global lockdown. Okay, it showed you the reach of these devils, how the Lord allowed them to spread themselves, man. Okay. Now, when you keep reading, it says what? Yet he passed away, and lo, he was not. Yeah, I saw him, but he could not be found. So just as the Lord raised this man up to great power, the Lord is beginning to break this man down. Okay, and it plays into a part, knowing that he had but a short time. You don't think the devil know that he's losing, all right, power, he's losing ability. Okay. Yeah, man, he's able to still pull things off, man, but he also knows that hey, he's waning. Okay. And this is what got the prophecy got the pressure on this nigga, all right, to go with his moves, man. And that's why they went the way of Donald Trump, and they rolled the presidency of Donald Trump, man, to accelerate, all right, his New World Order agenda, man. Esau been fast tracking this thing, man. Okay. And there's certain things that working in his favor and certain things backfiring, man, which make him have to rush even more. Okay. So just as the Lord raised this nigga up and allowed him to spread himself, all right, his influence, okay, his authority throughout the earth, man. All right. Now we're seeing the Lord through prophecy. He's beginning to break this devil down. He's beginning to break up everything that this man has established. Okay. And his last ditch effort is to attempt this new world order, which according to prophecy, we know that he's going to make progress. Okay. And he's going to make progress, all right, in attempting to set this thing up. He's going to get to the point where he's going to be able to switch over to a new system, all right, and mandate MOTB, certain technology. Okay, you're going to have certain technology to participate in society, man. So we know he's going to get that far. Now once he makes that thing mandatory, how much more he goes on, okay, after that, okay, we'll see. Okay. But we know it's not much farther, man, because the Lord is getting ready to intervene. The Lord is setting the stage up for Yahushua to come back, which is this third world war. Okay. So we see the things happening on the ground. Okay. These things are going to continue to escalate to the return of Yahushua, which Yahushua is coming, all right, to clear the board and break this shit up once and for all, man. Okay. These Edomites and the rest of these heathens, man. Okay. So let's go here because let's get this in the book of Isaiah chapter 10. All right. So when you go into the book of Isaiah chapter 10 and verse 33, and we'll get a couple translations. All right. Isaiah 10 and 33 said, behold, the Lord, all right, the Lord Yahweh Shem of hosts shall lop the bold with terror, and the high ones of stature shall be hewn down, and the haughty shall be humble. Okay, now who's the most proud on earth, man? The elites. Okay, because they've been, like I said, for the longest, they've been generations ahead of everyone. Okay, but like we just their video is viral about this Jake, they ran down, this Edomite in a marathon. Okay, right at the finish line. Okay, so this devil, just as the scriptures say, when he's about to fill his belly, he shall be in straits, man. Okay, and prophecy is walking this nigga down, man. Okay, you seen Jake, hey, walk Esau down in that marathon. Well, this is prophecy, man. Walking this nigga down, man. And eventually it's gonna go past this nigga, man. Okay, so now we're seeing the moves that this nigga is making. He's been met with prophecy. Okay, he's been met with prophecy. This is prophecy, okay, that's countering what this nigga is trying to do. Okay, and it's prophecy that's going to allow him, to move forward to get to the point to where, this thing is mandatory. This device, this RFID C-HIP, okay, which is the MOTB, okay, the Karagma, okay, the technology that's going to be mandatory to participate, okay, in his new order. Okay, so this devil, he's been prophecy is pushing this nigga. You see, prophecy, all right, got this nigga foot on the gas, man. To where he got to throw this thing up, man. Okay, one thing that Esau don't got is he ain't got time. Okay, time is not in this nigga favor. Okay, you see, there was a time when I say he was he had such a big lead. The elites, man, they just been, like I say, man, they've been putting things in the works for a long time, and they was always, working generations ahead, man. Certain things that they will implement. We just now could, like, we look at young niggas. Well, we look at young niggas and young hoes, just for an example. You look at the degeneracy of our people. Well, that's the result of what this nigga was doing 15 years ago. 20 years ago. We look at the condition of our people. This is a result, okay, of things done, decades ago. The crack epidemic, gangster rapping. You see, then the poisonous grocery stores, and you see, and you look at our people. Well, this was a result of things done decades ago, man. Okay, and that's how these devils been operating, man, to where they put things in play, decades, all right, earlier, and then you see the results of it decades later, man. Okay, we see prophecy to walk this nigga down to now. When he make a move, shit, prophecy is right there. Okay, prophecy is right there on that nigga, man. All right, seatbelt, like them young niggas, we playing cornerback. Okay, and talking about lockdown defense, they do the little seatbelt, prophecy on this nigga like a seatbelt now, man. Okay, and it says this the NLT, Isaiah 10:33 said, but look, the Lord of heaven's armies will chop down the mighty tree of Assyria with great power. And we know, America is likened to the modern day Assyria. Okay, so going back to that tree, you see, because America, has been the tallest tree. Okay, has been the most powerful government, the most powerful kingdom. Okay, under the banner of the elites, man. They invested a lot of witchcraft and resources into this American empire. Okay, and not the people, but the system. Okay, the petrodollar system and the military. Okay, not the American people. It's a big difference. You see, it says he will cut down. All right, he will cut down the proud. Okay, the lofty tree will be brought down. Okay, so we're getting ready to see, man. The America the Great. We're seeing America the Great fall. Which the elites they want to, reduce. Okay, the American people. You see, when we talk about them weakening America, they want to weaken the American people. Okay, to get the population, all right, prep for this new world order. okay, to have them desperate, all right, for this new world order. Okay. But what's happening is, man, the Lord is beginning, to weaken this American system, that hegemony that they've been able, to subdue. Let's go here. It says, is the AMP, all right, the Amplified. Okay, when you go into Isaiah 10:33, it said, listen carefully, the Lord, the power host will lop off the beautiful bows with terrifying force. The tall in stature will be cut down, and the lofty will be abased and humiliated. Okay, the lofty will be abased and humiliated. Okay, so the Lord is going to humiliate, all right, these Edomites, man, beginning with the elites, because everything that they're trying to do is going to fail. It's going to fail in an embarrassing way. All these things are going to fail in a very embarrassing, humiliating way. Okay, the lofty will be abased and humiliated, man. So from the elites, all right, to the American population, okay, everything is gonna because the population is proud. This is a proud population, man. The American people, they're gonna be humiliated, man. Okay, but beginning with the elites, okay, the Chaldeans, the modern day Chaldeans, they're finna be abased and humiliated, man. Okay, and the Lord's already starting to chip away at them. Okay, to the point where the devil know he only have but a short time. Now, let's go here, okay, because even on the ground level, let's go here. All right, because things are starting to implode. These data centers. Okay, you have data centers being canceled because he doesn't have enough energy. Okay, and that's another part of what we're seeing with these wars, man. This is an actual, they warn about these resources, man. Okay, because this new world order is energy intense. Okay, and this nigga doesn't have unlimited amount of resources. He's finite. Okay, so when you go here, you even have, all right, even college students now, starting to rebel against the AI, because the AI need the people. The AI need the people, all right, input to function. And as people are, getting wind to this whole AI scam, okay, you're starting to see a rebellion even against the AI, man, which is a major part of the devil's new world order. Okay, and this is why he's going to be forced to bring the pain, all right, to get people to be extremely desperate. Okay, now you do have those that pretty much worship AI and love AI and look at AI as as a god, as the next thing, as some type of upgrade to society, but simple believe every word as the scriptures say. Okay, but then you have this aspect of people beginning to rebel. Okay, and those are the people that it's gonna accelerate the devil bringing the force, the hammer, to create desperation. You see, and with this whole AI thing, which it can do particular tasks, it's able to replace certain jobs, all right, but not to the degree, all right, not to the degree that this nigga is pushing. Okay, and AI, all right, is mainly for, all right, operating this control system, managing this control system, okay, governing the people. You see, through programmable money, surveillance, okay, AI drones, and you see. So yeah, let's play a little bit of this, and then we'll segue to dealing with the build up to this next go around, all right, between the small hats in America, all right, and Iran. So let's play this.
Here's something genuinely strange that's happening right now. 44% of Gen Z workers admit they're actively sabotaging their company's AI strategy, not just complaining about it, not dragging their feet on training, actually sabotaging it, entering proprietary information into public chatbots, refusing to use mandated AI tools, deliberately generating low quality output to make the technology look ineffective. Nearly half of the youngest workers in the professional world are working against the technology their bosses are betting billions on. And before you write this off as young people being resistant to change, just stop and think about that for a second. Gen Z grew up with algorithmic systems, they're digital natives basically. Usually, young people love new innovations. This is the generation that adopted smartphones, social media, streaming platforms faster than anyone else. So, what is exactly different about AI? I'm Elle. I have a PhD in computer science, and I analyze AI developments to understand what's actually happening beneath all of this hype. And when you look at the public data on this, the surveys, the sentiment tracking, the actual behavioral patterns, something becomes very clear. This is not resistance to technology. This is more resistance to a specific power structure being built with technology. Let me show you what I mean. Start with the sentiment data because it's honestly remarkable. Over the past year, excitement about AI among Gen Z dropped 14 percentage points to just 22%. Hopefulness fell 9 points to 18%. Anger increased 9 points to 31%. But here's what makes this wild. Even daily AI users, which would be people who use these tools every single day, saw their excitement drop 18 points and hopefulness drop 11 points over the same period. Just think about that. The more they use it, the less hopeful they become. So it's not just unfamiliarity breeding fear. It sounds more like familiarity breeding understanding. Meanwhile, at universities, you're seeing open rebellion. The University of Pennsylvania student newspaper published an editorial titled "Penn Has an AI Problem" that opened with, I'm quoting, "AI cannot coexist with education, it can only degrade it. As technology advances and workers are replaced by machines, schools are some of the only places we have left to explore and wrestle with human thought." This is basically the first Ivy League school to launch an AI major. They're at the epicenter of AI adoption in higher education. Penn now offers 10 undergraduate programs, 21 graduate programs, and 8 doctoral programs in AI. And their own students are writing that AI is degrading education. 83% of Penn undergraduates admit to using AI in academic settings, which means they're not writing from ignorance, they're writing from direct experience with what happens when you can outsource thinking to a chatbot. So on one side, you have executives pushing AI adoptions as fast as possible, and on the other side, you have the people actually being told to use it saying this is making things worse, which raises the obvious question, of course, what do the executives themselves think is happening? Here's where it actually gets genuinely absurd. A survey of nearly 6,000 senior executives across US, UK, Germany, and Australia found something absolutely remarkable. 90% of executives report that AI has had no impact on employment or productivity at their firms over the past 3 years. We actually have a separate long video analysis on this specific part. 90%, 9 out of 10 companies deploying AI are admitting in a survey publicly that it has done nothing measurable. 69% of firms are actively using AI, so most companies have successfully deployed a technology that successfully does, well, maybe nothing. That's actually impressive in its own way, right? But it actually gets even better. 75% of executives admit their company's AI strategy is more for show than a meaningful guide to outcomes. So it's not a leak, not a criticism from the outside. Executives admitting it in a survey. 3/4 of them know their AI strategy is performative, and they're continuing to execute the performance strategy anyway. Why? 73% of CEOs report stress or anxiety about their company's AI strategy, and 64% fear losing their jobs if they fail to lead the AI transition. So the logic basically becomes, I'm afraid of getting fired for not deploying AI fast enough, so I'm deploying AI I know doesn't work to protect myself from getting fired for not deploying AI. It's like watching somebody build a parachute while actively jumping out of the plane, right?
Like someone building a parachute while jumping out the plane, man. Okay. And see, people are losing, a lot of people that have to deal with this AI, their seeing is limited. All right. Which of course, this double, the average people don't have, the highest level of AI. All right. But it don't matter how AI is limited. So it's only so high it can go. All right. And at the end of the day, all right, it needs human input. All right. And it's to the point that they done sucked up all the data and to the point to where AI is training itself on false data and it's going backwards, man. You know, and the Lord said He would do that, man. Let's get that real quick in Isaiah. What's that? Isaiah 40. You know, now when it comes to this devil, using AI to govern the people, as far as like the surveillance state, and even with Palantir, and this devil using AI weapons, to govern civilians. Okay, where AI is going to be effective in it. Okay, but when it comes to this man pushing AI as if AI is going to reach God status, man, this nigga capping, man. All right, can't do that. But you're seeing a lot of pushback in the workplace, and a lot of these, executives, they're being forced to, deploy AI. All right, because they've invested, the devil's gonna invested so much in it. Okay, and then it's an excuse, to fire, to do mass firings. Okay, because they want the American job market to shrink, and they're pushing a lot of these jobs. Some AI is replacing, particular jobs. So it's not like it's not doing nothing. It's doing particular things, but not to the scale that this devil is pushing, But a lot of those jobs that he's, saying AI is replacing, they're just outsourcing those jobs, all right, to these what they call, because they don't call third world countries anymore. They call the developing nations. Okay. So they push these jobs to these developing nations, these developing economies, as they say. They don't call it third world anymore. Okay. But yeah, I think that's Isaiah, might be 44. All right. Verses verses Isaiah 44 verses 24 and 25. Baba Shah. Okay. So let's go from there. I'll leave this in the description box if you want to watch it. There's just more and more videos coming out about the AI hoax, man. Because the devil hyped it up, all right, and pushed it out like it's way more capable than it really is. Okay, it can do some things. It has its strong points, all right. And I say when Palantir, which is going to be used, when the devil really put the squeeze on the people, okay. But you combine that Palantir, the AI with law enforcement, man, and they're gonna be souped up, going against civilians. Okay, now, yep, brother. Let's get this. It's the brother GMS. All right, times of Doc Yada, Yara 144. It says, Isaiah 19:3 says, the spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst thereof, and I will destroy the counsel thereof, and they shall seek, all right, to the idols and to charmers and to them that have familiar spirits and wizards, man. And we know, all right, that this AI, this is another magic trick. Okay, this is a part of the devil's witchcraft. Okay, and it projects, and the devil projects it to have way more power than it does. Okay, as if AI, is going to gain consciousness and take over and enslave humanity. No, it's this nigga behind the scene that's going to slave. He plans on enslaving people with, all right, the AI as a tool. Okay, but he wants people to look at this AI, as a god. Okay, well, there's an idol. It's a dumb idol, man. You remove the human factor, and AI can do nothing. Okay, and just like a statue of wood and stone, AI can do nothing. Okay, if you remove the human factor, man. This Isaiah 19:14 said, the Lord have mingled a perverse spirit in the midst thereof, and they have caused Egypt to err in every work thereof, as a drunken man staggering his own vomit, man. Okay, so when you look at, America, man, it's like a drunk man that's staggering out the earth, man. Now we know, all right, the elites, they intentionally do particular things to throw people off. But then we have to factor in the prophecy. Okay, the Lord said that the Egypt will be like a drunk man. And you look at how they're moving like a drunk man. They're staggering, man. Everything that they're doing, okay, is starting to backfire against them, man. Okay, the elite still have things working. Okay, but everything is not working. They're limited in what they can pull off. Okay, and the Lord got them to where, look, nigga, hey, go forward with this new world order. Okay, that avenue is still open for them. Okay, but what we're seeing is things starting to backfire, and this man, hey, the Lord knows, because if you're, it's just like if you're in a car that's leaking gas, okay, well, you need to hurry up and get to a gas station, man. You see, the gas station is so far out, man. You gotta rush to get there because you are already leaking gas. Okay, so that's going to put you in a panic mode to where you're just going to start moving in a particular way. You're going to be more reckless, man. You see? So we're seeing America stagger, man, like drunk men, and this goes into militarily, okay? This whole thing with AI. All right, they looking tacky. Like I said, there's a lot of people pushing back against these data centers. They don't have the power to power all these data centers that they want to do. Okay, AI being called out. Okay, so we're seeing a drunk man, okay, stagger to his demise, man. You see? So when you go here real quick, and then we'll segue. This is the brother GMS Taza Doc. Taza Doc Yara 144K. All right. It says Isaiah 44:24 said, thus said the Lord thy Redeemer that formed thee from the womb. I am the Lord that maketh all things. Okay, so the Lord maketh all things. And see, Esau, he wants to boast as if he can make all things, like he can create intelligence from scratch, like he can create a soul. Because if you're saying AI has a conscience, that means that Esau can create a spirit. Okay, if AI has consciousness, because the consciousness comes from the spirit. Okay, and this is what this devil is trying to pull off. All right, as if he through data and witchcraft can create consciousness in the spirit. Okay, hell no, only the Lord can do these things, man. You see, and what this devil does, he projects himself. He always projects himself to be more powerful than what he is, man. And the Lord has given this man power, but he's limited, man. Okay, and we're seeing the limitations of this nigga power. Okay, it said, thus said the Lord our Redeemer, and he that formed thee from the womb. I am the Lord that redeemed, making all things, that stretching forth the heavens alone. Okay, and spread it out abroad the earth by myself. Okay, and this the point. They're frustrated the tokens of the liars. They're frustrated. You understand? These devils get frustrated. These niggas ain't just chilling. These niggas get frustrated. Certain things ain't going like they want. Certain things they still able to move and progress, but certain things ain't going like these devils want, man. Okay, it said because why? The Lord is frustrating them. Prophecy is frustrating them, man. Okay, the Lord ain't giving these niggas. Say these niggas been on the easy path for a long time. Now they're coming into scrapes. With scrapes is to difficulties. Okay, it said they frustrated the tokens of liars, and make it diviners mad. They turneth wise men backward, okay, and make it their knowledge foolish. And this is addressing the elites. Joe Sixpack don't run nothing. Okay, society is becoming dumber. Okay, but Joe Sixpack don't run a goddamn thing. So his decision making ain't that important. We're talking about the elites, their decision making, their wisdom, and their knowledge. Okay, that the Lord allowed them to tap into. Now it's becoming foolish, man. Okay, so let's go here. And I say certain things, of course, this devil, stages, but then you can't, just because he staged, events, that doesn't mean that the Lord not intervening and making this man foolish. Okay, that doesn't mean that this man, all right, that things aren't backfiring on this devil in real time. okay? Because he's able to stage events and, do particular things, okay? It doesn't have anything to do with the Lord intervening, man, okay? So let's go here. A lot of things we see, he stages things and certain things is always deeper than what we see on the surface. Go into that aspect as well. Okay. But we know according to prophecy, man, that the Lord said he was going to frustrate the tokens of diviners, man. Making diviners mad, turning their wisdom backwards, okay, and their knowledge foolish, man. So let's go here. All right, let's go here. Because I say the elites have used, the American economy and the American military, okay, to to enrich themselves, okay, to spread their influence, okay, put these nations in debt, put these nations in submission, okay. You go into mainly the Rothschilds, man, because you go, the creation of the state of Israel, where there was a Rothschild creation, man. That letter that was written, that Balfour Declaration, was written from, the British Parliament member, okay, to a Rothschild, man. Okay, the creation of the state of Israel. You see, the money, the financial system that financed America, those are all Rothschild, man. J.P. Morgan is nothing but another branch of the Rothschild banking cartel. They came to America. You see? So what we're seeing now, all right, is this war machine that dominated the earth. This motherfucker outdated, man. The American military is washed up. Okay? On paper, all right. And that's another thing too. That was another thing, like, because you look at it like, okay, they spend these trillions, but we have to understand a lot of this weaponry that America has is overpriced, because even the military of America, even that's a scam based on, is meant to enrich these defense contractors. Okay. Now they do have, a lot of weapons. They can do a lot of damage. Okay. But American military is really not built, to build wars in this modern era of war. Okay. Because they've been riding off their reputation. All right. They've been riding off their reputation. Also, they, of course, their ability to project power throughout the earth. No other nation can do that. American is able to project force anywhere on the earth. The fact that America can strike you anywhere on the earth, that was always on these nations' mind. And then, they understood the firepower that America possessed. Okay. But American military was, went from being able to win wars to the shock and awe campaign, to where they just come in rapidly, decapitate you, get air superiority in a week. Next thing say Monday, you see the aircraft carrier. Tuesday, Thursday, you're getting bombed to death. See, by the weekend, you got F-35 flying over your city. Okay. And these nations, they would tap out, and it was weaker nations. Okay. But now what we seeing, these what they call middle class nations and other pure nations to America, man, they've been studying American and how they go to war, and they built their military doctrine just to counter America. And this is what we're seeing playing out. Okay. So the ability of American military to project power, man, we're seeing it's being cut off, man. Okay. That's being cut off, because even this whole thing with the Straits, we're going to get into the Straits. Now, the elites, they're using this narrative like the Straits closed to bring about an energy crisis. Okay. But we're going to get into what's really happening, man. You see, because what's happening on the ground, okay, is going to surpass the schemes of the elites, man, because what's happening on the ground is going to escalate to the return of Yahushua. Okay. And these nations really finna bang it out, man. Okay. So let's play this.
That's literally what we're dealing with here. The U.S. military is, on paper, the most powerful military in the world, right? But it's stretched out all over the world. And it's got numerous commitments everywhere. And there's only so many resources that it can bring to bear in any particular situation at any time. And it's fought too many conflicts and had a military industrial complex that is simply outdated. It is a dinosaur. Has not kept up with the times. It's bloated. It's practically monopolistic. There was 2 pieces out by the New York Times in the last week or so. The first one, well, actually, it's the second one, but the first one, the New York Times, by the editorial board, the U.S. military was losing its edge. After Iran, everyone knows it. This is a huge admission by the preeminent paper of record in the United States, right? That the U.S. spends $1 trillion or more a year on its military. And that it's not fit to task, that its military industrial complex is not fit to task, that it has not evolved with rapidly changing military technology, drones, AIs, that it is too monopolistic and unadaptive and just incapable of manufacturing and production to scale. A huge admission. And then they had another piece out, the New York Times. Russia is building tomorrow's war machine.
Now, why is Russia? Because of prophecy. Why is Russia building tomorrow's war machine? Okay, why is Russia, more advanced than America? Why does Iran even have capabilities that America don't got? Because of prophecy. Okay, see, people just hear, they spend $1 trillion, $800 billion. Okay, they got a lot of shit, but remember, a lot of this shit overpriced. And just because you spend the most, that doesn't mean that you have, the best technology. Okay, and then if you have, this technology, okay, how does it perform? Okay, when you're fighting someone with capability that you haven't fought before. Okay, how does it perform when you're fighting somebody with capabilities that you never fought before? You see, it's all about performance. See, everything before a war is speculative. Okay, when the actual war begins, then you really see what you got. Okay, in America, all this, spending this money, which a lot of these, these defense contractors enriching themselves. Okay, more than that was the main thing, was the defense contractors enriching themselves, and they look good on paper, So it's like, as a nation, you see, okay, nigga, this is $1 trillion military on the way, You see, so you look at that on paper, and that kind of kept these nations at bay. And then I say, America has a lot of destructive power, and there was a time when aircraft carriers could have free range and just go and pull up everywhere because they didn't have the missile technology, to sink an aircraft carrier. An aircraft carrier with their destroyer strike team, man, it's almost, because it's a moving target, plus it had crazy defense. Okay, even when you go into when these early on, when the small hats and Iran was just doing, little minor strikes back and forth, a lot of the missile defense came from aircraft carriers parked off the Mediterranean that was helping deflect, those incoming missiles from Iran. Okay, so you had, fleets. You had 11 different fleets of these. Okay, remember, it's it was 7 continents, so you had more aircraft carrier fleets than continents. So this nigga was able to project himself, anywhere in the world, multiple aircraft carriers, but it was nobody can sink them, but now they can be sunk. So this is a major swing of how war is fought now. Okay, now you have to take them aircraft carriers out of the theater. You see, going back to what we always go into with Isaiah 43 and 14 in NLT. This is prophecy. Okay, so why is Russia? They say why? Because Russia got a purpose, and it's gonna be short lived. Because remember, Yahushua coming to wreck everything. Iran is a tool. All right, they're gonna go into captivity. Russia, they're a tool. They're gonna go into captivity. China, North Korea, whoever else. All right, Turkey. All right, those major players. You know, but all of them are tools being used, and they're gonna go into captivity. Okay, so what we're seeing, all right, is prophecy at work on the ground level. You know, so we can't ignore what's happening just because it's an energy crisis lockdown, and we know the elite scheming in the midst of this war. So we can't just throw out the war. Now, like I say, there's a lot of disinformation and misinformation and propaganda that happens on the ground level that has to be discarded. You know, but as far as the things that's pertaining to war, you know, we tap in. You know, so according to prophecy, all right. So let's play a little bit more of this. All right. Then another thing, he said America is spread too thin. Okay, you can have the strongest military, but you got limitations, man. You can't fight everybody. You can't defend all these because America has a lot of security guarantees for these different nations. Okay, but you can't defend all of them. That's another thing Iran showed, like, nigga, you can't defend everybody. Okay, that's what Iran is showing by striking these Gulf Arab nations, these GCC nations, like, nigga, you can't defend everybody. And the Iran is showing the world, look, these niggas can't do what they saying they can do, man. Okay, and that's making these nations reconsider, which, according to prophecy, man, these nations are going to betray America and turn this bitch to a desert. Okay, so we're seeing the narrative that's going to lead into that. You know, that's why we're getting into what's happening on the ground, because it's an ongoing narrative that's going to lead into this, man. You know, and this narrative been going on a long time. All right, for decades, man. So let's play a little bit more of this.
And this is the exact opposite of that. They here admitted that Russia has developed the exact opposite, that they have a decentralized, innovative, rewarding military-industrial complex that focuses not what looks great on paper, right, or brings the most money for a military-industrial complex conglomerate, but is the most pragmatic and capable of production to scale military equipment, and how that their innovations with drones, with AI and AI targeting are just leaving the U.S. in the dust, much less, you know, then we want to talk missiles and hypersonic missiles and these new exotic strategic and so on. It's damning. So the New York Times, in the space of a week, all right, and we can extend this to Iran, right? Because a lot of Russia's innovations that they talk about, and Russia's own wonder weapon, the Goran, that is based on an Iranian design provided as part of their strategic partnership to Russia back in 2022, at the beginning of Russia's intervention in the Ukrainian civil conflict. They have then mass-produced it themselves, and according to this article, had 30 major innovations on that in the last 5 years that have been, produced to scale, then creating a whole range of Gorans with different capabilities, high-end capabilities. And we're told that Russia has provided advanced drones and the tactics for using them back to Iran to pay them back, and that has been one of the things that has been damaging those U.S. military bases and taking out radars and so forth. This is a huge admission of that. The hegemonic giant is down on one knee. It's it's not, it's behind the times, right? They say it right out. Russia has a future war machine, and by extent, Iran is, obviously well in that direction as well. And we don't even want to talk about what the Chinese are doing. And the U.S. is an aging dinosaur, right? It's a Tyrannosaurus Rex with arthritis that just looks outdated in an age of small mammals. It can't compete in the post meteor, if you want, in military technology changing terms, that has affected the global environment now. It's huge coming from a major publication like this.
Yeah, man. So, these nations, which according to prophecy, man, these nations would, the Lord say He will raise up. So it's the Lord that got these nations, surpassing America, just for the purpose of prophecy, man. These nations are, if they come together, all right, they have these capabilities to neutralize, all right, the hammer of the earth, man. And like I said, we know, certain things are drawn out for other purposes, but then we also have to know too, the Lord got these nations on point. When you get into like the war, like America, is very limited. Okay. In this type of war, America don't fare good, man. Okay. Because a lot of things that used to, be America's strength, all right, have been neutralized, all right, through this new technology that these nations are introducing to the warfield, man. Okay. So let's go. Let's get a couple precepts, and then we're gonna segue to something else. All right, let's get a couple precepts. I'm gonna put this one in the comment too. The brothers want to tap into it. But that guy there, he's pretty good. He's a realist. He don't have no horse in the race. He very non-biased. This guy, Mark Slobodka. Let's go here. Let me paste that. But let's get a couple precepts, and then we're gonna segue into some more. Like now we do boots on the ground. Let's go here. All right. Yeah, and we always get it. Let's get this in since we here. You see. And if Iran is doing this, Russia and China. And that's why it only gets worse for America. It only gets worse. Okay. It's Isaiah 43 and 14. And it says, this is what the Lord says. This is NLT, Isaiah 43 and 14. This is what the Lord says, your Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel, for your sakes, the sakes of the elect. I will send an army against Babylon. Okay? So we got the Lord putting hits out, man. And the Lord got Babylon, all right, marked for destruction and to be humiliated. Okay? We're seeing America being humiliated, man. Okay? It says forcing the Babylonians, okay, the Chaldeans, to flee in those ships they are so proud of, man. Because that was their main, all right, tool, all right, their main weaponry to project power, them goddamn aircraft carriers, man. Because you had floating Air Force and you had them Navy strike groups on your coast, man. They can get busy. Okay, you see, but now I say that these nations have the ability to, all right, sink these aircraft carriers, man. It's to change the game. Okay, and when America can't get air superiority, which means that they can fly over wherever they want, okay, with impunity, which means that they can do what they want over your airspace, and they can just drop bomb, carpet bomb you, When America don't establish their air superiority, man, it's hard for them to do, how they usually do, man. Which is shocking. Okay. So let's go here as well. Let's get this in Jeremiah. You know, that's why I just stick. When you go into the prophecy and then you see what's happening, like, oh, the Lord said this will happen, man. All right, this is Isaiah 49, and just get to the point. All right, this Isaiah, this Jeremiah 49 and 14 says, I have heard a message from the Lord that an ambassador was sent to the nation to say, form a coalition against Edom and prepare for battle. Okay? Form a coalition against Edom and prepare for battle, man. So this is the Lord doing. Okay? And whatever the elite's doing, they're just causing this prophecy to come to pass. What these nations are forming this coalition. You see? It said, the Lord says to Edom, I will cut you down to size among the nations. You will be despised by all, man. So we're seeing this bitch get cut down to size, man. Okay? We're watching this real time. You see, because like I say, the ceasefire is broken. When Babylon, these small hats, you know, think they to a point to where, you know, they're going to try this again, man. Okay? It's going to be worse. You know? It's going to be worse, man. You see, it says, verse Jeremiah 49:16 says, you have been deceived by the fear you inspire in others. You know, because like we said, for the longest, all it took was an aircraft carrier to pull up. A lot of times they ain't had to do no fight. You see, that's the fear that the American military had, man. So where these aircraft carriers would just pull up. You know, and these nations would submit to these, you know, to certain deals. Okay, these what they call gunboat diplomacy. You see? So they've been, you know, for the longest they had fear, you know, in the earth, man. The American, all right, the petrodollar, them sanctions, and then they goddamn hammer, their military, man, it struck fear. You see? And they've been riding that wave, man. You know, because one thing about pride, it creates complacency. Okay? And now we've seen, okay, why America's been complacent because of the fear, you know, that they've had for so long, that they've inspired others for so long. Well, now we're seeing that these nations have closed the gap. Okay, these nations been in the lab in the off season, man. Okay, why Esau just been continually at war, America just been continually at war, continue trying to do a coup here. The CIA got this going on over here, and you got this war in Ukraine, and they ran through a lot of munitions, you know, trying to weaken Russia and all that, and everything is backfiring against them, man. Okay, and it says, you have been deceived by the fear you inspire in others, and by your own pride, you live in a rock fortress and control the mountain heights. But even if you make your nest among the peaks with the eagles, I will bring you crashing down, says the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. You know, and these devils, like I say, for the longest, they controlled the airs, man. The American military dominated the airs. Okay, you know, they dominated the skies, man. And then these devils, you know, even have weaponry, you know, in the heavens. Okay, then those satellites, which gave them, you know, intel, okay, on where to hit, and that's how they was able to disarm nations quickly. Like when America, their Air Force go in there because they got their intel from the satellites, they know exactly where to hit. You know, like I said, they had disarmed Iraq in Desert Storm in 3 days, man. You know, because they knew where everything was at, man. Them satellites. But see, with Iran is different because they underground. Okay, they don't know what nothing there. We finna get into that. You see, but this plays into that wild boar. We're gonna touch on it. You see, but no matter how, you know, this devil, like I say, he has weapons in the space. You know, even them B-2 bombers, man, they go so high. You know, they hard to detect because they so goddamn high. Them B-2 bombers and the B-52s, the B-2 bombers, man. Okay, all right, but hey, we gonna come when Russia get involved. They say Russia got some air defense that they go touch a satellite. We'll see. Hey, I'm waiting to see that when Russia really come in. You see, when they saying Russia got some air defense, they can go touch a satellite. Okay, so the B-52, hey, we'll see, man. All right, but yeah, let's go to this, my boy. Every now and then we gotta go holler at my guy Scott, man. Let's go listen to my guy Scott. Yeah, let's go here. So let's play this.
Again, Ray McGovern, the former CIA. When it comes to parsing all things Russian and extracting the right meaning from it, Ray's number one. Ray knows the Russian language, not just how to speak it, to communicate. I can barely get along doing that. But Ray understands the meaning of words and how the Russians use words. And so Ray has taken a look at the phone conversation between Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump that I believe took place yesterday. A phone conversation which was initiated by the Russians, which means everything. If people don't understand that, that means that the Russians have decided that it's necessary for their leader to intervene in a situation that's quickly devolving. And the Russians have said that an American attack on Iran, a resumption of military operations, and again, I'm not the specialist, but the wording is that it is not just unacceptable, but it's unacceptable in a manner which means that the consequences for this attack will be devastating to the United States and the world. Aragchi, the foreign minister, just got back from Moscow, where he briefed the Russians on the harsh reality. If the United States attacks Iran, Iran is front-loading the physical destruction of the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Bahrain, and perhaps Qatar. That means that 20% of the world's energy production will be permanently, not temporarily, permanently removed from the table.
Now, so you have, let's say Iranian foreign minister just left Russia, okay? And as you know, Ezekiel 38, that Russia going to be a guard to Iran, okay? They're going to be a guard to Turkey, man, chief prince, you see? So also, when you hear that Russia say it's going to be bad, if America resume their strikes, well, and that doesn't mean that Russia is going to get directly involved. Because see, when these things start, remember, this is war, okay? All right, war is very strategic, all right? It's not a bar fight. It's not a hood movie, okay? It's war. So when Russia is telling, look, it's going to be bad, y'all resume strikes, okay? Russia doesn't have to get directly involved right now. We know eventually they are, okay? So when we see, they resume fighting, Russia knows what they've given Iran in this last month since the ceasefire, okay? And Russia, all right, has given the okay for this second tier of targets, okay? Because when you go to war, you have your first tier targets, okay, to the second tier, and each tier, all right, brings more devastation, okay, to the enemy, all right. So this second tier targets, okay, is going to be on another level than the first tier targets we seen, and Russia done signed off on it because that's what you think they was talking about, okay. So Russia is giving them weaponry, intel, just like China is giving weaponry and intel. And Russia like, look, y'all got to do what y'all got to do. They resume back the second tier targets, okay, which is going to be more critical infrastructure. It's going to permanently remove oil production, okay, off the map, man. You see? So now, when they resume, like I say, they're going back to the birth pains, the sorrows, okay? As we get closer to the birth will happen and get more intense. Okay, so round 2, or you can call it round 3, if you want to count the 12-day war, is going to be more intense. Okay, because they're going to go to another level of strikes, or they're going to go to another tier of their strike package, man. Okay, and they have the weaponry and the intel to do it, because Russia is being a guard to them, as the prophecy says. Okay, so let's play this.
Sebby, we're on the verge of an economic catastrophe. It's going to happen. It can't be stopped. Energy that was in the pipeline at the time we started this attack on February 28th has worked its way through the system. Understand that, energy security is something that people don't understand the thin margins that we operate on when it comes to energy security. It's not like we're sitting there with big gas tanks full of gas that we can just rely upon. The way the energy business works is, we are constantly needs. What you don't want is a whole bunch of excess oil on the market. We saw what happened during the pandemic, where the United States actually had to pay people to store oil. It cost you money oil didn't earn you money. Oil lost you money. That's how bad it got. And the other thing you can't have is need when there's no, demand when there's no supply. That creates a problem too. We're moving into the peak summer period. This is going to be a summer of disaster for airlines. International airlines are already shutting down. Lufthansa has canceled 20,000 flights, and they may have to shut down everything. Other European airlines have stopped training new flight attendants because they're saying, we're going to be firing the ones we have. We can't train new ones. Airline industry is going to shut down because there's no aviation fuel. None. Zero. It's gone. And it's not like, well, let's just pay a little bit more. We're already paying a premium. I bought a ticket to go someplace, and I paid a price, and I had to pay an additional price, the fuel levy that had to be put on because of the rise in the cost of fuel. Okay, it's one thing to pay more, but no amount of money gives you something that doesn't exist. And jet fuel is ceasing to exist. In the United States, we're going to run into huge problems too in terms of costs. People think they're flying somewhere this summer. No, you're not unless you're a millionaire. There's no money. We just got rid of Spirit Airlines, so there's no discount airlines out there anymore. This is the reality. The fuel that entered, or the oil that entered the pipeline on February 28th is all gone. No oil has entered the pipeline since then. Kuwait, one of the largest oil producers in the world, you know how much oil they shipped in the month of April? Zero. One of the largest suppliers of oil in the world shipped zero oil. Saudi Arabia's had to divert to Yanbu, but they're not, for a while they were going to zero. Now they've gotten up, they're getting a certain percentage out there, but it's not the percentage that exists. United Arab Emirates can't ship anything except a little bit out of the one port that's open. Bahrain shipping nothing. Iraq's having a hard time getting oil to market. You know who's not paying a price? Iran.
So that's what we talked about earlier. So you got certain nations that can't ship nothing. Okay, the GCC nations. So that means that the people that they're shipping to is not getting nothing. Now the elites, this plays in their favor because they can, push an energy crisis lockdown. Okay, but wait a minute, it's not affecting everybody. Okay, it's not affecting everybody. He's gonna get into it. Okay, because they pushing that the straits are closed. They're not closed. They're controlled by Iran. Now the elites can manipulate that still and run with a narrative and shut down the whole global economy. Okay, but when you go into the reality, it's not closed. Okay, he's finna get into it. You see, but the elites they can manipulate this and close the whole global economy. Okay, crash the dollar, which is going to crash everything. Okay, and introduce the CBDC, make the MOTB mandatory, which even the build up to the collapse, things you're gonna have inflation, hyperinflation, shortages, so you're gonna have crisis panic, food shortages, okay, famine, okay, which is all prophecy. These things got to happen, okay? At the same time, okay, this conflict and the things, even if they're not fighting, the pieces are being put in place for when they do start back fighting. Okay, so even if they're not fighting, there's things being put in place so when they do start back fighting, they're gonna pick up where they left off and they're just gonna keep escalating. Okay, so this whole they pushing the West, the strait's closed, the strait. We finna, man, fella, let's let him speak on it.
You know all that crap out there about Iran? They don't have any place to store their oil, and they're going to run out, and it's a disaster. We're so smart with our blockade because we are. The people who write that know nothing about Iran. First of all, the Iranians have lived in the age of sanctions for 47 years. All right, so they know how to work their oil production. This isn't the first time they've had to ratchet it down, and they know about oil maintenance wells, et cetera. But the other thing is we totally miscalculate on two things. One is storage. You have people saying they're going to run out of storage in 6 weeks. And then they have to come back and go, well, we think it's 12 to 22. Now, if you have a margin there of 12 to 22, it means you don't know what you're talking about. That's a big margin, 12 to 22 weeks. I'm telling you right now, there's going to be a global economic crisis in about 4 to 6 weeks. So no matter what, Iran already is in the driver's seat because while they're still able to store oil that they're producing, according to even these pro-Israeli think tanks, we are looking at global economic collapse because of the lack of oil. The other thing is the vast majority of Iran's oil production is consumed domestically. And so it's not like they have to ship their oil. They just consume it domestically. Third, you know what the biggest oil market in the world is today, right now? One of the biggest. Between Iran and Pakistan over the border. The Pakistanis are throwing trucks into Iran, grabbing oil and bringing it back, and they're paying through the eye for this. But that's how Pakistan has to survive here. Iran is shipping a whole bunch of oil, a ton of oil. I mean, there is no problem here. Iran is raising money. All this stuff about Iran doesn't have any money, no cash reserves. Iran's raking in money as we speak. So all the calculations that Trump's making about Iran breaking is just lies, straight up lies. It's not even close to being factually correct. We have no functioning blockade right now. No functioning blockade. We get 1 or 2 ships here and there. We have 16 ships. I've taken a cruise in that area of the world. I'm here to tell you right now, that's a lot of water. A lot of water. And 16 ships couldn't even handle a fraction of the space that needs to be policed, let alone get close to the shore where these other tankers are leaking through. So this insane man is being badly briefed by stupid people who are.
Yeah, so, just to sum it up, Iran still getting plenty of money right now. Okay? They moving oil still through the Strait. They moving oil over land to Pakistan. Okay? And they got railroads that go from Iran to China. Okay? Which we're got another video to go into that. Okay? So when they saying push, the Strait closed. They do this thing that's open, it's closed, it's open, it's closed. It was never closed. Iran controlled it. All right, and everything that's moving through it, either anything else moving through it, all right, they paying Iran a toll. Okay, so going back into what we're seeing happening, all right, is prophecy is happening. It's creating these alliances, these military alliances, all right, to get ready to take down the horde, man. Okay, and the elites in the midst of it, they're they're gonna collapse the economy. Okay, they're gonna bring about desperation, famine in these particular things, civil unrest. Okay, the order out of the chaos, and they're gonna make the MOTB mandatory, man, because they're gonna crash this system and try to bring all right, as you have these nations, there's these prophetic nations still functioning. Russia good, China good, okay, Iran good. You see, Turkey, they good. You see, now the populations, all these populations, okay, they're going to be faced with the MOTB. They're going to have to switch over everybody because it's going to try the world, okay. But these certain militaries are still preserved to have this coalition to take this whore down, man. Okay? So you got to separate the populations from the military. See, the militaries are the tools that the Lord going to use to bring about certain prophecy, man, before he sends back Yahweh Shai. Okay? These populations finna suffer. Okay? But a Russian military going to be alive and well. China military going to be alive and well. Iran military going to be, okay, alive and well. Turkey. All right? So, let's fast forward. I think say a little more. Let's fast forward to the main point. He's speaking about, because they've done a war assessment, damage assessment, what's been done to Iran, and what Iran has done, in the region against America. Okay, and the small hats, man. And that's the thing too. They downplay, how bad this was, what Iran did in these 38, 40 days, to the small hats, because you think, okay, the small hats still able to go bomb Lebanon. Okay. And so you kind of think, okay, well, these niggas haven't been damaged. No, they've been badly damaged. Okay. Well, of course they have, all these munitions because they got air superiority over Lebanon. Lebanon doesn't have any air defense. So they can just fly in, wreak havoc and come back. You see? So yes, they able to still, destroy civilians in Lebanon. Okay, but the damage that has been done to them to project real power against any type of military force, man, has been, has been horrendous, man. So let's play a little bit of this, and then I got one more we'll get into. Ratazar. Let me put this in the chat as well.
He guaranteed that the world recognizes that outside of nuclear weapons, the United States has no meaningful military power. We should have known that when we couldn't defeat the Houthi. Remember them? The people who shut down the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, the ones who made one of our aircraft carriers maneuver emergency, so it threw an F-18 overboard in panic. Yeah, them. We can't defeat them, didn't defeat them. And we want to go and defeat Iran, which is like orders of magnitude better. And then we want to take on the Russians, which... are in the Chinese. We are literally, we're like the Boy Scouts thinking we can play in the NFL. We can't.
So Scott, you're saying that when Donald Trump makes these statements, when he's saying, oh, we're going to blow the hell out of them or whatever, that we don't even have the weapon capability to do that. Is that what you're also saying?
We have weapons that go boom. But, that's not how you want to. I mean, it has to go boom in the right place. We don't know where the Iranian stuff is. If we did, we would have bombed it. We spent 40 days bombing Iran. And at the end of the day, remember how we were said, we've shut down Iranian ballistic missile production. Well, since this ceasefire has been in place, Iran has totally replaced their high-end missiles by building new missiles. Why? Because they took the production capacity that was above ground and put it below ground, and we don't know where it is. And if we do know where it is, we don't know how to get to it. So they're producing new missiles, new launchers. And they have missiles we haven't touched. They have drones we haven't touched. We don't know where they are. We don't know what they're doing. We don't know how they're doing it. Maybe in this pause, we refine some intelligence collection capability to come up. But if you think for a second that the Iranians are playing the static game, oh, well, we did a good job. Everybody stand down, stay in the same place you are, don't move, so the Americans can take photographs and find out where you are so they can blow you up. You think they're playing that game? These are people who spent the last 20 years looking at how America fights a war. I can guarantee you they have shuffled the deck and reshuffled the deck and reshuffled the deck, and they are 5 steps ahead of us. We didn't destroy anything. We killed some people, but we didn't impact we sank some ships, but it's not the victory the president wants to make it out to be. The Iranians never had a blue water navy capable of challenging the United States. The Strait of Hormuz was not, secured by the 159 ships that Donald Trump claims we put underground. It was secured by missiles, 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 and we can't control those missiles. And fast boats, which we didn't destroy at all. They have hundreds of fast boats that can swarm. We didn't dent Iran's military capability at all. Nothing. During the Gulf War, we ended up killing decoys or things that we confused as Scud missiles. We never destroyed a single Scud launcher during the Gulf War, and I know because I was one of the guys responsible for hunting them down. We claimed, I remember after the first week and a half, we claimed to destroyed 64 launchers. The Iranians only had 19. Now that tells you we got a problem. If we think we killed 64 launchers when they only have 19 and all 19 continue to function, it means we're killing something that we think is a launcher that's not a launcher. It now turns out that the Iranians have very sophisticated decoys, inflatable decoys that they can put heat sensors on it so it glows at the right point. So when you look at it with infrared, you go, oh my God, look, it's a missile. And the Israelis and the United States were blowing up a bunch of inflatable decoys, static decoys. Meanwhile, Iran just continued to fire missiles on a daily basis. They're good missiles. We didn't destroy anything. This is the truth the American people need to understand. We didn't destroy anything. Nothing. Zero. Squat. And the Iranians destroyed everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So, this 40 days, this shifted a lot of power, and they, they downplay it, which we know, like I say, of course, at least going to crash the economy off of this, okay, which all that work in our favor, great, nigga, crash, okay, make the MOTB mandatory, you see, but then militarily, all right, you have this coalition of nations, okay, that the Lord is raising up, man, to destroy America, man, okay, and in this 40 days, man, like I say, so when you deal, America didn't achieve any military objectives, man. All right. They did not, all right, deter Iran's ability, okay, to, to have force, because the whole thing was they wanted to destroy Iran's ability to be able to fight back, but Iran is more capable than ever. And this ceasefire plays in the favor of Iran because they just gonna get more scrapped down, okay? And they got manufacturing. That's another thing. America don't got no manufacturing, man. Okay? America ran through years of weapons, munitions in a month. It would take years to get those weapons restocked. Okay? Some of them even as long as a decade to get that restock. They ran through that in a month. Okay? Iran is at home. Russia is at home. China at home. Russia, Iran, and China, they're manufacturing powerhouses. You see, they can manufacture weapons as they use them. And then when you have a ceasefire, when they're not using, they can just manufacture. It plays in their favor. Everything is playing in the favor of this coalition that the Lord is raising up to take the whore down, man. Okay? So this ceasefire doesn't play in the favor of America, man, or the small hats. Okay, when they resume back fighting, it's gonna be continuation of belt to ass, man. Except it's gonna be worse. The belt gonna be heavier, and the nigga swinging it gonna be stronger, man. Okay, this is what's gonna happen. You see, all those radars that America lost a lot of military infrastructure in their region in a short amount of time, man, which is opening it up for that invasion, speaking of in Ezekiel 38. Okay, now let's go from there. Because like I say, that's and you go into that wild boar. Well, one of the things that makes a wild boar hard to deal with is because that wild boar has a thick layer of skin that's hard to penetrate. Okay, and you go into that region of Iran with those mountains, man. That's hard to penetrate, man. You see, that's hard to penetrate. That's why I make a wild boar so hard to kill. So it's like all these airstrikes. Yeah, you're killing civilians. You see, you're blowing up buildings. Okay, but you're not destroying the military. The military is still preserved. Okay, the capability still exists. Okay, because you could destroy all the buildings in Iran, but if they still have that military capability, then we still at square one. You ain't did nothing. Okay, so let's go here. I asked about how hard is it to destroy a mountain. All right, it says destroying a mountain is extremely difficult, requiring gigatons of energy to destroy mountains. Now it go off. He talk about erosion over a million years. Okay, it says all right. It said it would take decades. You know, when they do mountaintop removal mining, it said it take decades. You know, they can flatten, you know, certain tops of mountains. It takes decades, over decades, using explosives. For a large mountain, it will require hundreds of high-yield nuclear weapons to destroy a mountain. It would take, and remember, their weapons are in these mountains and under these mountains, man. Okay, how can you get to them except, all right, and even then, you see, it's go, you know, then you just jump down to the main point. It says difficult. It says while it is possible to destroy smaller mountains or the top portions of large ones, okay, completely obliterating a large mountain chain like the Rockies or Himalayas, okay, is functionally impossible on human time scales, man. You see, and that's why the Lord gonna have so many missiles, okay, hit America at the same time, showing you the power of the Lord, okay, gonna be in those missiles, man, to turn America, right, into a desert, mountains and all. Okay, all them nukes coming, 200 million nuclear warheads coming to America, man, the latest bit to a desert. You see, but let's I got one more video I want to tap into. And this was from months ago, and it makes more sense now. They're looking at it. All right. Let me see. I think this video is from, let me see how many months ago. From 10 months ago. So let's play this real quick. So this from 10 months ago. All right. And we're just looking at this thing from different angles, but it's leading to the same outcome. Okay. Now let's play this.
So you're looking to, whether it's your use of resources or your access to resources, you're looking for more control on both. A lot of times wars are driven not by the need to go to war with your enemy, it's to control your domestic population. So you create a foreign boogeyman, you attack them, and then that gives you an excuse to lock down your domestic population or draft them all into the army.
See that? So that's a factor as well, and this is a perfect time, to bring about crisis events to the domestic population. Okay, because one thing you have to understand, at least are at war with your American people. You see, you American citizens and your rights, okay, have become an obstacle to this new world order. Okay, and they're gonna break that obstacle, okay, through crisis, man. So this is a perfect opportunity for them, to manipulate, okay, this current war to bring hell on the American population, man. All right, to get them to submit, okay, to the new world order agenda. You see? So let's play a little bit more of this.
Right. So but if you look at what the dollar if you look at the Anglo-American alliance and you look at what our plan was to build a unipolar model. So when the Soviet Union went down, essentially the Americans said, we're now going to lead a unipolar model and we're going to be the world hegemon. And that was when I left the establishment. I said, this plan will fail. I want no part of it. Big mistake. Big mistake.
Now she left in 1990. She was dealing with the HUD, but she was dealing with those central bankers, within the White House. She had a federal job, a federal position, but she left in the 90s, when she started to see, that they tanked, all right, the USSR. They broke that up, the elites, pretty much tanked their economy, and broke up the USSR, all right. And she said when she started seeing these things, she said, this ain't gonna work. So she left in the 90s. It's over 26 years ago. So these devils been, scheming and plotting in the background, and you have, actual animosity between these nations, man. A lot of things are staged, a lot of things are used for, they create these boogeymen. Okay, so a lot of things are staged, but there's been animosity and infighting and, treachery and scheming and plotting, and they're just, spilling over to actual war now. Okay, for the sake of what? Prophecy, man. Okay, so let's play this.
And it was very much with Israel as the proxy in the Middle East in the lead in a way that was extremely damaging of U.S. internal politics. So I said, I want nothing to do with this. I'm out. And what happened was, if you look at that strategy, one of the stages of that strategy was the war in Ukraine. And the idea was we had basically imploded Russia in 89, 90. Russia had built back faster than we expected. We needed the Russian resources if we were going to maintain hegemony against China. And the Ukraine, we lost the war in Ukraine. That failed. And so the unipolar model is now scrambling. What are we going to do? And one of the other stages was to assert control in the Middle East. If you lose the Ukraine, then you can't afford for Iran, China, Russia to trade oil and build energy capacity outside of the sanctioned system.
This was 10 months ago. Okay, this was 10 months ago now. All right, let's play it again. Let's go back a little bit.
It was very much with Israel as the proxy in the Middle East in the lead in a way that was extremely damaging of U.S. internal politics. So I said, I want nothing to do with this. I'm out. And what happened was, if you look at that strategy, one of the stages of that strategy was the war in Ukraine. And the idea was we had basically imploded Russia in 89, 90. Russia had built back faster than we expected. We needed the Russian resources if we were going to maintain hegemony against China. And the Ukraine, we lost the war in Ukraine. That failed. And so the unipolar model is now scrambling. One of the other stages was to assert control in the Middle East. If you lose the Ukraine, then you can't afford for Iran, China, Russia to trade oil and build energy capacity outside of the sanctioned system.
And that's exactly what's happening right now. That's exactly what's happening. Russia, Iran, and China trading oil outside of, all right, the petrodollar. Okay, outside, because the America have sanctioned so many people that they create a sanctioned economy. Okay, certain things are backfiring, man. You see, and then she said, that Russia was able to build back, after they collapsed faster than expected. Well, why was they able to build back faster than expected? Because they have a role to play in prophecy. Okay, we can go into the details of this happened, that happened, this happened, that happened, but ultimately sum it up, they got a role to play in prophecy, man. That's why they was able to bounce back. The Lord said He's gonna put hooks in their jaws. Okay, which means he's in full control of Russia. Okay, because they have a purpose and prophecy, man. You see? So let's play this.
So if you know, the war in Iran has nothing to do with nuclear energy other than, we don't want them to have internal capacity to get energy from nuclear. We don't want them to have nuclear plants. The big threat is that they have built the train tracks physically with the new railroad line and other things they're doing. They've built the train tracks physically and financially to escape the dollar system. And with China, Russia, and Iran outside the dollar system in a big way, it really threatens the dollar system. And that's what the current attack, the current squabble is all about.
So,
See it? Okay? Because the dollar was a control system, man. You see? And you have, in the West America, you can tell, they wanted, to go into this new world order system, okay, for all the leverage, man, which is control over as much energy as possible. Okay, and that petrodollar gave them control. Now, the plan was always to tank the dollar and tank this whole economy, man. Okay, you see, that was always the play. You see, there's many ways that they could have done it. Okay, but this attempt to, gain control over more energy, man, has backfired and put them into, this war. All right, that's eventually gonna turn this place to a desert. Okay, so at least they still, gonna do their thing, with the global reset and getting to a point to where they make the MOTB mandatory, man. Okay, but militarily, we're seeing the will of the Lord, okay, play out exactly, man. And even what they're at least doing with the global reset and the MOTB, that's all within the Lord's plan as well, man. So we're seeing everything play out, exactly, how the Lord, said these things will play out, in the beginning. You see? Matter of fact, yep, this is perfect here. And we end it here, man. This is the brother GMS, Taza Doc, Yara 144K, Proverbs 21:30. There is no wisdom, nor understanding, nor counsel against the Lord Yahweh Bashim Al Shai. Okay, so nothing that these devils is doing is going against the counsel of the Lord. It's playing into it. Okay, every move they try to make, they just create this coalition of armies that's going to come against the whore. Okay, them, resetting the global reset, well, it plays into the prophecy of the Lord. Okay, the MOTB being mandated, the chaos that they're going to push, to cause the desperation, especially here in America, man. Okay, so all these things play to the favor of Yahweh by Shemal Shah, man. Okay, so there's no wisdom, no understanding or counsel against our power. Everything is working for our power, man. And we of the elect, everything working in our favor, man. So yeah, we'll leave it there. So Lord will, all right. Yeah, she's serving the purpose right now. She's serving the purpose right now, brother. But Lord will, you brothers, all right, and you few sisters were edified once again. I'm gonna give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Makakadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders, GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to one younger brothers, and peace and blessings, salutations, and hopefully, shalom.